Hey folks, it's Chuck Suter, constitutionalwar.org. I'm here with Josh Tolley, who I seen a Facebook post. You're in Charlotte today.
I am, yeah.
Thought, hey, might as well swing by, see what's up. So what are you doing here in the Queen City?
Well, a few months ago, well, no, more like a year ago, we had a guy named Michael Rood on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about the truth in the Bible and how a lot of Christians have missed a lot. You know, like Easter is a pagan holiday, Christmas is a pagan holiday, that sort of thing. So we had him on the show, found it absolutely fascinating. We had him on again for Christmas time. And then as a thank you, they invited me to come down here and be part of their event, and here we are.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting stuff, and
It is.
I'll put a link down there so you can check out Mike's what Mike is doing. Other than that, what's going on in Josh Tolley's world with the show, and you know, where you say you might be coming back to Charlotte here in a couple months?
Yeah, I am. The show's going really good. It's growing tremendously. It's growing beyond what we actually thought it would do. So I'm always stoked about that. That's exciting. And we're still trying to impact business. Started out as a business consultant, a business guy, and author anyway. And when we started the show, we kind of had to scale that back for a while. Now that the show's about a year and a half, 2 years old, we're getting that flowing, where it's kind of on autopilot. You know, we don't need to do the daily setup. How do we set things up?
Yeah.
So, you know, got a team in place to help me with the show, some researchers, producers. So now I can get back out there and do some more business training, which is bringing me back to Charlotte next in May. So whatever, is today the 1st?
Today is the 31st.
Okay, so
Yes,
a month.
Cesar Chavez Day, in case you haven't. Yes, Obama has declared Easter Sunday
That
today.
figures.
Yeah, it's Cesar Chavez Day, so
That figures.
you know, Jesus, Chavez, kind of the same. You know, about on the same level, right, guys? So yeah, I'll put a link to that if I can get that from you.
Sure,
down in
yeah.
the description of the video. And what are you going to be talking about? I know your book. Will you be talking about the book? Or?
I'll be talking a little bit about the book, Quit Your Job or Die, Discover the Importance of Self-Employment. I have two other books coming out. I have Who Shot My Duck, the definitive work on finally getting your ducks in a row. And then we have one called Evangelpreneur for those of faith, trying to figure out how does faith and business mix without getting into this, you know, prosperity message. How do we really live our faith and be in business? And unfortunately, that's so overlooked because there's so many of those prosperity messages out there that kind of take away all the limelight from actual business training. So, you know, I have those two books coming out. And in May, we're doing a Small Business Big Solution seminar here. It's a 2-day event. It covers the 10 modules where small businesses seem to make the biggest mistakes. And we hit those things hard. I mean, we cap the class. We're going to cap it at about 70 people. And it's going to be set up like a classroom where you can actually ask questions about your business. Hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm facing. I'm not a real big fan of huge seminars because that's just a lot of rah-rah stuff and you don't really get anything tangible. And I really truly believe that free enterprise is the fuel for freedom. If we're going to change this country, if we're going to restore the republic, we need to get free enterprise thriving again. And the government knows that. The real silent war that we're facing, the largest war in this country that nobody's talking about, is the war against entrepreneurship. If they can defund us, if they can create an environment with a fiat currency or not, if they can create an environment where we can't operate financially and buy the billboard space, buy the Slim Jims, you know, all the things that we need, then we're dead in the water. And we can't compete against these multi-billion-dollar machines. And at the same time, they tell us, oh, well, if you're going to be rich, you're just part of the ruling elite. And they've convinced Liberty people that we shouldn't start businesses, that we shouldn't become financially successful. Meanwhile, all the success goes to them, and then we wonder why they pummel us in terms of fundraising.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, especially with, you know, even if we did go back to the gold standard, with all the red tape and everything that they want to do, the CEO or the founder of Subway just recently came out and said there's no way that I could have started Subway in today's climate. And so, you know, a lot of that's going on. We have I wanted to bring up another topic. Kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. What is happening with the RNC right now, the Grand Old Party, and how there's a lot of red tape going on in the Grand Old Party. And a friend of mine was interviewed by you, Todd Daniel Welch.
Okay.
And he was thrown out of one of the Republican parties up in your state, and you were interviewing him about being thrown out. What are your thoughts on that? Have you followed up with him? And obviously the chairman is from your state as well.
Yeah, the chairman is from my state, which is kind of disappointing because he's just a laughing stock. And this whole idea of changing the party from within, I love it. I'm glad we're doing it. But now we're getting to the point where now it's their turn to push back. And I think that's taking a lot of Liberty people by surprise. They just thought, well, we'll change it, and here we are, and yay, we took ground, not expecting a pushback. These guys have been doing this for a long time. They have huge bankrolls behind them, and it's natural to assume they're going to push back, and that's exactly what we're seeing. After we had Todd on, I got tons of emails from people. A lady in Michigan, Josh, I've been kicked out of the party too. A lady in Maine, oh, they're not even accepting my donations. They won't return an email. And you see this systematic rejection of people who want to change the party. And that's why last election cycle was so vital that we were active. Because in those states where change was made, in those counties where change was made, they're kind of like pockets of liberty now.
Yes.
But in the ones that were on the line, on the fence, there's a battle going on.
I think we've seen that in Oklahoma, where they kind of edged out a victory, but then were squashed out by the establishment. Same thing is going on with my friend Brian Doherty up in Maine. He's having some issues with the Republican Party. I'll be heading out to LA the 9th through the 13th for the RNC April meeting and the rules. And what is your view on the possibility of getting the rules changed back to the 2008-2010, or using Rule 12 to change Rule 16 as Morton Blackwell wants to do, which would still leave in place Rule 12 and Rule 40, which changed it from 5 to 8 states. What is your view on that? What do you think that does to the grassroots, and do you think it could be changed?
Well, I think a lot of the change is going to be dependent on the people who are part of the Rules Committee recognizing the direction that the RNC is going.
Yeah.
If they want to survive, they have to acknowledge that it's time to change. And now, by placing certain people, like in Minnesota, there's a fight. By placing certain people in a position where they can be on the Rules Committee is vitally important on April 1st, because that's really lays out the ground rules for the next effort. And if the RNC establishment is successful on not turning back those rule changes and going along with what Boehner so foolishly did right on stage, then it's going to take away the ability to essentially change the party from within. And here's my take on it, really. I think depending on how the Rule Change Committee is, or the Rule Committee rather, is made up, and the results that come out of it determines our strategy as Liberty fighters in 2014. If they change the rules back, stay in the party and fight. If they change it so we can't really fight within the party, then we need to look at an alternative strategic option. So right now, in a sense, they're laying out the groundwork for the battle that they want to choose. Fight with us or fight against us, and that's what the Rule Committee is going to come up with. Hopefully it goes our way, and it allows us to operate from a grassroots perspective and get people in place that we want to run. This whole idea that, straw polls are going to be binding now and all this other sort of stuff is just absolutely absurd, because we know that straw polls can be manipulated easily. We know they've done it in the past, and we know it's not an accurate reflection all the time of the general voting bloc of that party either, because some of these straw polls, like in Iowa, are so...
You can pay for them.
Exactly.
Bachman had who? Like Randy Travis at her times? And you could only get in to see Randy Travis if you vote for Michelle Bachman, who was just going to demolish everybody and beat Ron Paul's pants off of him and run him out of her own state. And I think she came in last, right? Was it last? Yeah, I think it was last.
So this whole idea that you want accurate representation, if that's what you really want, and you're part of the Republican Party, then you would fight your own party against this, because you would say, wait, it's not reflective of what we actually stand for. And I think along with the rule change, there's a lot of soul searching being done with the people in the party, thinking, wait a second, is this really my party now?
Yeah.
And whether you're a Rand Paul fan or not, his filibuster really kind of set that question in motion, because there are a lot of people now thinking, wait a second, I don't think this is for me, if it's going to go the direction that the established RNC wants it to go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Lindsey Graham and I think John McCain even had to apologize for calling Rand a wacko bird.
Wacko bird, yeah.
So how would what would Josh Tolley's view on diversifying your political clout, I guess you would call it. Like you said, if we can change these rules back, and if Mr. Priebus is willing to do that, and we have people that are willing to do, somebody that's willing to come forward to make that happen and take us back to the more grassroots rules that allow for a bottom-up party, which is what the Republican Party essentially has been. And obviously, it's not the heyday of the smoke-filled convention rooms, but I agree with you. If we can do that, then I'm gung-ho about just staying in the party. Yes, work independence and all that is fine, but if it doesn't come back to that, what would be the political avenues that you would see most viable for Liberty candidates and Tea Party folks?
Well, I think even if the rules are changed, there needs to be a shift in strategy. Every election cycle, we focus on D.C. How are we going to change D.C.? Let's change D.C. And they've convinced us that in order to fix our life, we have to fix D.C. And it doesn't work that way. If we can get the focus back to local liberty, where we start shoring up our county boards, our county sheriffs, then what we've seen is over 300 sheriffs say, screw you, D.C. We don't care what you come up with. It's not happening here. And if we really wanted to fight for liberty, we would fight for liberty and for D.C. by shoring up our base outside it. It's kind of like a real strategic battle plan. If we created 400 pockets of liberty around the country where these counties are really on the side of the people, then it sends a message to D.C., well, we don't care what you do. And the interesting thing here is, D.C. recognizes it. 8 former heads of the DEA have told Barack Obama, you better put a stop to what the counties and the states are doing before it's too late.
Wow.
So they understand that the real fight isn't in D.C. As long as the federal government can keep you focused on the District of Columbia, they take your attention away from the battleground, which is most easily won by us. And this is the thing I really don't like about a lot of the political movement. We focus so much on D.C. and so little on our home counties and our home cities that in the last primary cycle, there were 5 seats completely uncontested in my district. All you had to do was show up and sign the paper, and you won.
Yeah.
I mean, it is unbelievable. And then we complain, oh, liberty's being destroyed.
Well, how do we get people, what would be your view on how we can get people to focus on more of these smaller issues? And the second part of that would be, is if we do focus on these more local issues, instead of maybe think locally, act globally, maybe think locally, act nationally, or think nationally, act locally, view that you're espousing here, which I agree with, I would say, we've got bills going through, I think, Montana, Wyoming, Alabama, South Carolina's now got nullification legislation in process. And I think the feds would be very upset with that, to see something come about like that. We've got Tom Davis in South Carolina, other people doing these types of bills to keep it at a state level. How can we galvanize people to understand and bring in more of a coalition? Obviously, you've got pockets of Tea Party, you've got pockets of liberty groups. How do you get that national attention for state and local issues?
I think that's the million-dollar question. I mean, really it is. I mean, that's what everybody's trying to do. There are so many Tea Party organizations, liberty organizations, and a lot of them are wonderful. Some of them are 7 flavors of nuts, but a lot of them really are wonderful. But there's no system of unity. Mm-hmm. And it's almost as if we're trying to herd cats. Every 2 years we try to herd cats and get them all together, and it just doesn't work. And really, this is going to sound kind of unconventional, but really it does come back to that message of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And, as long as people are reliant on employment, and as long as people are looking to D.C. to secure that reliance, then nobody's ever going to go against their best interest.
Yeah.
And we're at a point now where, 47 million plus people are on the government dole. Mm-hmm. If you take into account employees of the government and the families of employees of the government, we're looking at 48% of the nation. As soon as that tips to 51, we're done anyway.
Yeah.
So in order to fight that, we really need to get back to this idea of entrepreneurship. The best way to spread the message of liberty is through entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and that's a great point because here in Charlotte they brought in Chiquita, spent a bunch of money to bring them in. Chiquita's, I don't know if you know, their stock is tanking. It's turning out to be a horrible thing. A lot of the jobs that we're getting from paying them all this money to come here are probably going to end up going away as they do not so well in the marketplace. So if the government is paying to bring these jobs to you and you're looking for employment, then you need the government to bring you more employment.
Yep.
Whereas if you are creating your own employment or just self-employing yourself, not only does it give you more freedom and it gives you more of an ability to criticize the government for doing such things, it also gives you more time.
It does.
And can you speak to that?
Well, yeah. Matter of fact, coincidentally, I was talking to a couple about that. I mean, this event that I'm here for is not political at all.
Yeah.
But there was a couple outside that said the exact same thing. They said, once we became self-employed, we had the ability to scratch out money for causes that we wanted to, that we couldn't when we were employed. We were allowed to shut down the store. Yeah, we would lose business, but it was up to us. A boss couldn't tell you you're fired for going to a Ron Paul rally today.
Exactly.
And it seems like little things, but in reality, when you look at when countries are taken over, yes, they come after the guns, and yes, they go after the music, but they also go after the business. The Nazis identified Jewish businesses.
Yes,
they made it harder to start businesses. Because governments know if the people can create their own economy, then they're no longer reliant on them.
Exactly.
And right now, we have Democrats versus Republicans, liberals versus conservatives, talking about what's the best way to regulate our neighbor, how to restrict our neighbor's freedom in order for me to be prosperous.
And who can give you the most? And who can give you the most jobs? A friend of mine, an older lady who has actually survived through Soviet Russia, she said the one thing that everybody needs to be aware of is talking about the unemployment, because in a few years there will be no unemployment because everybody will have a job.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll have a
That's
job,
brilliant.
and you'll have a job working
That's right.
for the government, and you won't have a choice.
That's
it
right.
won't be if you want a job, you have a job. You'll have a job. They'll find something for you to do.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
it's been a pleasure. How can people get a hold of you? Tune into your radio show.
Yeah, tune into the
and
show.
And also, how can they, maybe try to get a local station to pick your show up?
That's a good thing. Man. Just call local station. I mean, this show is growing, and it's because of great people like you and like the viewers who kind of hear this message. And even if it sounds kind of odd at first, like, Josh, how do we really tie entrepreneurship to politics and down with capitalism? Really, all that is misdiagnosed definitions.
Yeah.
Capitalism didn't cause this.
We haven't had that in a long time.
Exactly. We haven't had real free enterprise in capitalism since 1913. So don't blame it.
Absolutely.
If you are alive today, you cannot blame capitalism because you haven't experienced it yet. That's anyway.
Yeah.
But call those local stations. Local stations are supplied by local advertisers. There's no other show on the air that advocates small business like this one. So it's a natural for radio stations. And then on the political side, we carry a message that is truly independent. We don't have a history of a D after my name or an R after my name. And I don't pick politician sides. I don't care who you are. I'll take anybody to task because it's always the people over the politician. So call the local stations. Find out more. Go to joshtully.com. If you're in North Carolina, I'm going to tell you, get to this event in May. It can be a life changer. We have done this event in the past, and we've literally seen businesses double their growth in less than a month.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about month to month. I'm talking the size of the business has doubled because there are so many people who understand this message and say after watching this interview, yep, I'm going to start a business. But it's one thing to say you own a business and a completely different thing to actually be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a good plumber. You can be the best plumber in the world. Unless you have a business, a system of business knowledge in place, it ain't going to do you any good.
Absolutely.
I mean, the cure for cancer, for example, is sitting right now in Texas. And everybody said, well, the cure for cancer would sell itself. It doesn't, actually.
No.
It's sitting in Texas, and nobody knows about it because there's not a business push behind it.
Oh, absolutely, and you'll find the same thing like you were saying with the parties, with the business, with anything. Even you look, what we're here for today is something market driven view of faith like
Right.
we were talking about.
Sure.
There was a lack, there's a need for something, and Michael Root is doing that. You're doing your thing with the, getting a message out there that people want to hear. People want to know this. So I think it might be down to 69 or 68 tickets now, because I might have to show up for this thing, because I'm liking the way that sounds. Thanks again, Josh, and
Thank
I'll
you.
put some links in the description here. It's Chuck Suter, constitutionalwar.org. Thanks, guys.